I've had a few goes at some close-up photography with my telephoto lenses, but I've never actually had a macro lens. And maybe that's why NISI reached out to me to ask if I wanted to try out their close-up filter. I mainly photograph mammals and birds, but I do like the idea of having a small tool with me that I can always photograph something small as well, because there's always something to photograph in life in the undergrowth. Company NISI kindly reached out to me and asked if I wanted to try out one of their filters. And I said yes, because I have been wanting to dabble a little bit more into macro, but I haven't taken the plunge of actually buying a macro lens. But maybe a close-up filter like this will give me more of a taste for macro. So they sent me a close-up lens kit, which consists of this pouch. Inside it, I got the actual close-up filter, 2 caps, and that just goes on the top of my lens. Now this lens kit is for a 77mm diameter lens. In this package they also give 2 adapter rings, so that means that I can bring it down from 77 to 72 or from 77 to 67. So for me, I need to use the 77 to 72. Put it on my 40 to 150mm micro four third lens from OM system. NISI recommends a focal length of about 70 to 300mm, which should make this lens here ideal, which is equivalent to 80 300mm in full frame. I'm going to take a wander and try out this filter on my 4150. Now, just to say though, I am not a macro shooter. I've done a couple of videos where you can check out where I've used my telephoto lenses to get close-up photos of dragonflies, damselflies, and these kind of things. But this is my first time actually trying something proper magnified and going 1-to-1. So this is not a video on exactly how to do it and loads of tips. This is more a beginner macro photographer like me trying out a little bit of macro shooting. So if you're curious about macro, maybe this is the video for you, where you just want to see what kind of images is possible with a close-up lens like this. And I will do my best to try and get some good images. this is perfect. I got a spider in these bracken here, and I'm going to take a photo with the NISI close-up filter on my 40-150. Then I'm going to take the NISI filter off, take another photo, and then I'm going to use my 300mm, which is 600mm equivalent, and take a photo with that. Now the thing that's going to happen is that I can get really close with this filter on, something like between 20 and 30 centimeters. I can get close and take a photo. With my 40-150, my minimum focus distance is 0.7 meters, and on my 300 I think it's just above 1 meter. So even though it has a longer focal length, I'm gonna have to stand further away. I'll show you the images afterwards, and you can see the difference from having something like the NISI close-up filter on your lens and what kind of magnification you can get on your gear then. I'm zooming in as far as I can. It's 150mm on this lens, crop by factor 2, 300mm, and I use my manual focus. It is focusing at the closest it can to the lens, and then I'm just using my body to move in back and forth until I find focus where I want it. This here is just absolutely amazing. There's just a little dead branch of a larch tree. It's a spider web between the branches, and I was looking for ages to find the actual spider, and it turns out it is perfectly adapted so that the thick kind of bulbous size of it looks exactly like one of the little bits that's on the larch tree here. So it just sits up, curled up with its legs down the branch. It's getting a bit windier now, so it's not going to be ideal because I am using focus stacking. So as soon as it gets a little bit windy and things start to move, I just can't get an image because it's going to stack images and they're just going to look a mess. So let's keep walking, find something that's a bit more stationary. My settings default here is f8, which is recommended f8 to f11, f16, I think. A very shallow depth of field. My ISO, when I have enough light, I'll try and bring it down. Right now, because I'm hand holding, I'm at about ISO 800, ISO 1600 sometimes. Gives me a shutter speed of around 100th of a second. And I am doing the focus bracketing or focus stacking. There's two different ways you can do it on the OM-1. There's focus bracketing, will just take loads of images and then it won't give you a final JPEG file, but you have to stack them in post. And then there's focus stacking, which the camera will stack for you. So the focus stacking is what I'm mostly using because that'll give me that JPEG preview, and I can kind of see if I nailed it or not, or if I need to just keep doing it. It is really tricky actually because that depth of field is so narrow. So I'm taking a number of shots. It's 15, that's the maximum I can do with focus stacking, and the focus differential is set to 1. Sometimes it looks like if I set it to 2, it might move a little bit too far so that I don't get focus throughout. It is really tricky. It is actually really difficult, and this is kind of my first time experimenting with more of a macro type images. Usually I've just used my telephoto lenses and taking an image from further away and just trying to get more of an environmental image, and I still like to do that. So what's really handy is like it takes me a second to take this off, and I'll take kind of more of an environmental image with this, just the 40-150, and then right back on with the NISI filter. That allows me then to get the macro close-up images. I will increase the f-stop a little bit if I'm really struggling to get focus throughout. And sometimes I'll experiment with focus differential set to 2 as well. I don't know if I've nailed it yet to find the perfect formula. It changes a little bit depending on what I'm photographing and what kind of depth it is to it. And that means also, like, I've tried this NISI filter on my 300, but there's just no way I can use that because the depth of field is almost not there. So I'm just not getting anything sharp when I'm using that. So the 4150, I tend to use it at 150 millimeters. Sometimes I'll go down to 100. Makes it a little bit easier to get enough depth of field. But I'm really enjoying the process, and it's such a nice little handy little tool to just take with me wherever I go. And on a morning like this, when I was out here looking for geese and stuff like that to photograph over the woods. I was a little bit late for that, they didn't show. And then I just started searching this woodland hedge here for spider webs and little invertebrates to take photos of. And trying a little bit for backlit, and yeah, just really enjoying it. Let's just keep walking up here, see if we can find something else. Having tried out this filter now for a couple of days, I have to say I'm really impressed by it. And I really like being able to take this simple filter with me in my bag wherever I go and being able to photograph some macro on any day. Because if you photograph wildlife like me, birds and mammals and these kind of things, it's not always they show. And it's really nice to be able to photograph something really small, because there's always something really small to photograph. You know, if you're considering macro, a filter like this can turn one of your lenses into a way of photographing something really close up. It's something you can always keep in your bag for some close-up photography. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll put links below where you can pick up one of these filters or go to their website to learn more about it. Thanks for watching.